Good day, everyone. Welcome to Blacklogic. Experts say that the Biden administration's latest statements about Russia's election interference are misleading and distort prior intelligence findings. 15 people, including 4 children, died of malnutrition in Gaza within 24 hours, highlighting worsening humanitarian conditions. TSA warns travelers not to use public USB ports or unsecured airport Wi-Fi due to rising cyber threats like data theft and juice jacking. A new U.S. law requires most foreign visitors to pay a non-refundable $250 fee to verify visa legitimacy starting later this year. Trump revised grievances by tying Epstein-related court filings to what he still calls the Russia hoax, fueling his long-standing narratives. There's a lot more to cover here this morning, and we're going to get right to it. So experts are stating that some of the recent White House claims about Russia's 2016 interference are wildly misleading, that the intelligence agency, by the way of Tulsi Gabbard, that they are twisting intelligence community findings. And when we look at this particular story, let me blow this up for you guys, because I think this is a story that will probably get your motor running early this morning. It states here that the Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, declassified and released new intelligence documents Friday that she claimed were evidence of a treasonous conspiracy by top Obama administration officials to manufacture the notion that Russia interfered in the 2016 presidential election. But the allegations conflate and misrepresent what the intelligence community actually concluded, according to a review of a GOP-led Senate investigation from 2020 and interviews with congressional sources familiar with the probe. The newly unsealed documents do nothing to undercut the government's core findings in its 2017 assessment that Russia launched an influence and hacking campaign and sought to help Donald Trump beat Hillary Clinton, the sources says. The new allegations from Gabbard lean on assessments before the election and statements from Obama-era intelligence officials finding that the Russians did not alter the election results through cyber attacks aimed at infiltrating voting systems. But the January 2017 intelligence community assessment never concluded that the Russian cyber attacks altered the outcome of the 2016 election of compromised any election infrastructure in the first place through state voting systems were probed. And this is the reason why, in my opinion, it's very imperative that we look at both liberal, conservative, and independent news. Because just the other day, I read a story similar on Fox News that only had the accounts that Obama orchestrated the investigation in the cohorts in collusion with Russia, affecting the outcome of the 2016 election between President Trump and Hillary Clinton at the time. So this is stating that regardless of the information found, that it still didn't have any ramification on the outcome of the presidential election. And there's no reason that we can actually tell that. And they can just tell us anything. And this is not essentially against the writers of CNN. I'm just stating that when you read media, and you're reading conservative media, you're reading liberal media, you're reading independent media, you're reading non-legacy, non-mass media, like coming here to Blacklogic for the truth. Somewhere between all these stories and information, whether it be the news story or going to the White House or going to the National Governmental Archives to find this information, somewhere between all the lies is the truth. Because every good lie, I was telling my son this the other day, every good lie have truth in details, meaning that the truth in the details of line by line, you're just reading statement that are in matter of fact that seem to be true, but the overall depiction and projection is a lie, is propaganda. So again, when we read these, somewhere in here, the Obama administration did something, okay, that allegedly is against the law. Because why do investigations? Why create evidence if you're not trying to propagate a particular depiction that someone is colluding with another country in order for them to be president of this country. Why hasn't Vladimir Putin come out and say that these claims are true, even though we're warring against Russia politically by the way of support of Ukraine with our Patriot defense missiles and all other sorts of military equipment and funding? So again, there's a lot to be said here because I don't know too much about Putin other than what I read, but I would like to believe if it gets to a point where his back against the wall, because he didn't really care about the sanctions, he's still going to do business with a lot of African countries who need his natural gas, who's not, essentially, I heard they're getting fair deals versus dealings with the Chinese dealing with Western countries. So again, he still have a very large consumer base in areas of the globe that Western powers are not doing dealings with. So when we look at these stories, I kind of give it the side eye because I wonder what else is the government holding from us? And we're going to touch on that just a little bit later as we get through these news stories this morning, because believe me, there's a more lot to cover here. I want you guys to take a look at this particular story. This is very heart-wrenching, and we're going to get into this because I don't think no parent, no adult person will want children to die of malnutrition, even when there is aid and support on the ground. Because in just 24 hours, 15 Gaza residents, including 4 children, die from starvation, bringing famine-related deaths to over 100. And the reason why I believe that this is so heartbreaking, because growing up in Washington, D.C., I'm a Washingtonian. I'm from Washington, D.C., born and raised. And one iconic museum that is downtown near the mall where all the other Smithsonian museums are is the Holocaust Museum. And before we went to visit the Holocaust Museum, we looked at a movie called Schindler's List. It was a very heart-wrenching movie, very sad, very destructive, very monstrous of some of the things that the Nazi regime, the Third Reich, did to all those Jewish people. And one of the main things they did was left them detained inside of these entrapment camps where they were barbed wired in, they couldn't leave. But when the Nazis at the time vacated because of the Western forces was coming in and basically cleaning house, they left those Jewish people there to die. They didn't use the rest of their ammunition on them. They simply took every resource. They took the water, they took the food, or they contaminated it in some regards. And so thousands of Jewish people faded away because of malnutrition and starvation. That's why this story is so important, because the reason why we have 15 people dead and 4 children in the region of Gaza is because of malnutrition and starvation. And the only question I know that you guys have is why and who stop humanitarian aid from coming to that region? Well, ladies and gentlemen, unfortunately, I have the report.
We don't know when these supplies will be allowed by the Israeli authorities into Gaza. My colleagues and friends in Gaza are sending me images of the UNRWA warehouses that have been empty for 3 or 4 weeks now. And meanwhile, our warehouses outside of the Gaza Strip are full. Everything that people have been denied for the last 19 months, including the last 11 weeks of total Israeli siege.
These are food parcels made to support families, blankets, hygiene kits, medical supplies, and they go back as far as the wall in this warehouse.
Meanwhile, people in the Gaza Strip are starving. This aid crisis has been going on since the war began. The Israeli authorities continue to deny and deprive the population of basic things that they need. Before the war, people were relying on 500 to 600 trucks of aid and supplies a day. We've never seen anything close to that number. And this is during a time where people have lost absolutely everything. The Israeli authorities in the last few days, they have just started to allow very, very few supplies of aid back into the Gaza Strip. But the United Nations is calling for a meaningful amount of aid. I think it's safe to say that the amount that's gone in so far is completely meaningless. We need access. At the moment, 80% of the Gaza Strip is inaccessible to us. It's in displacement orders, it's military military operations or it's no-go zones by the Israeli military. We need crossings to be open, more than one, and we need these supplies in.
So the reason why this particular report, I believe, touches home more so is because in the Allied forces to eradicate Nazis from the face of the earth, America was part of that. And a lot of this humanitarian aid that has been trying to reach the Gazians in that region, or should I say Palestinians. Now, for those who may not understand this particular level of journalism or what I'm about to state here, may get this misconstrued. And the reason why the trigger warning popped up is because this is not being anti-Semitic. This is for us to look at accounts of history to a certain group of people, and not of those survivors and those families that went through the Holocaust and some of the treacherous, inhumane acts that the Nazi did to them. And one of the most inhumane acts is starving a group of people. And the reason why I believe this is more so more heart-wrenching than any of the latest story here today, folks, is because the aid is actually on the ground. But reports have it that these humanitarian efforts are being stopped by the IDF, which is the Israeli Defense Forces. And so when I look at this, I want you guys to just understand the construct of the amount of destruction that's been occurring in that particular area. And this is not being anti-Semitic, because you have to state certain things as a disclaimer, just because of the outrage of you speaking up for innocent people. Do not forget, 40,000 people have perished because of this conflict between an entire country like Israel and a very small, minute terrorist group called Hamas. Now, the next statements here, I want you to listen very firmly, because Israel was constructed in the landmass of Palestine or Philistine. There's certain ways you can pronounce enunciation, etc. But the state of Israel was constructed in the last man and in the region of Palestine in 1948. In that landmass, the only question that you would have, was this empty space? Was this uninhabitable? Was no one living there? And the question would be, yes, there were people living there. Did those people migrate further into Palestine, or were they removed, or were they forced, or were they harmed, or were they killed? Now, not taking anything away from the violence that the terrorist group Hamas have inflicted on the Israelites in that October session of terrorism. But since then, it's been an ongoing bombardment of murder, death, kill of innocent civilians, not purposely, okay, according to the reports. They're just trying to drill down, find, and exterminate the terrorist group Hamas. But unfortunately, Hamas has not been more harmed than the innocent Palestinians that live in that region. Now, one more thing with this particular story is they said that humanitarian aid organizations face numerous challenges in delivering supplies to Gaza, including a breakdown in law and order, security threats, damage to infrastructure, and access restrictions imposed by Israel. Okay? And I'm just coming down here to access restrictions and delays. Aid organizations face difficulties getting supplies into and disturbing them within Gaza due to the slow and unpredictable inspection process at border crossing. Unpredictable inspection process. You would think that humanitarian aid, United Nations will have some sort of sessions with Israel so they can get all the paperwork right, any parameters or requirements right, so that the innocent people that live in that area can receive aid. It goes on to state here that Israel has also targeted local police officers responsible for ensuring the safe passage of aid trucks, leading to a breakdown of law and order. Did you guys, let me just read that one more time. Israel has also targeted local police officers responsible for ensuring the safe passage of aid trucks, leading to a breakdown of law and order. So, ladies and gentlemen, when innocent people are being harmed, I think that the world need to be outraged, because pressure needs to be put on certain organizations, certain governments, and certain states, because you never know where you may find yourself. Yeah, we may be sitting high and dry in the most powerful and influenced country in the world, but you never know where you may be 5 or 10 years from now. And if you ever needed the world's help, and if you were one of these innocent people, then I'm pretty sure you will want people to speak on your behalf as well. Now, the TSA, no less, issues urgent alert. Travelers should avoid public USB ports and unsecured Wi-Fi at airports to prevent juice jacking and data theft. Now, it states here, especially during the holiday season, as we head to airports across the U.S. and overseas, the Transportation Security Administration has issued new warnings for all smartphone and PC users to stay safe and secure at airports while traveling. The first warning plays into the controversial risk of juice jacking. This is where you're tricked into plugging your phone into a public charging socket into a hotel or mall or airport. So when you're at an airport, do not plug your phone directly into a USB port. Bring your TSA compliant power brick or battery pack and plugging there. TSA second warnings plays into even more controversial risk of public Wi-Fi. Nothing irritates cybersecurity professionals more than blanket warnings about public Wi-Fi, given the most traffic to and from your smartphone is now encrypted. So again, ladies and gentlemen, when you're out traveling, even like myself, I always bring a power brick, okay? And you might have to look at the TSA website to make sure you get one that's approved. But I always carry a power brick. My wife and I, anytime we're traveling, we carry on power bricks. And when it comes to the public Wi-Fi that a lot of airports in America actually offer for free, I will definitely have you guys to either work behind a VPN with an embedded firewall, or maybe even a geoproxy locator that may mask or even hide your IP address. And then in other regards, some things that you can possibly do is work through a Tor browser, that's Tor browser, that can also have embedded firewalls and subjugates that will stop and prevent hack, and always have antivirus software on your computer, because that will help out as well. Now, again, America is changing the way we do business around the world. And I just want to give you guys this other story here, because starting this fall, non-immigrant visa applicants must pay a non-waivable $250 fee under the new integrity fee law, waivable only upon full compliance. We're now charging people to enter the United States of America. And the reason I need to blow this up so we can all look at this, and a lot of people are calling this hypocrisy. They stated that the United States will require international visitors to pay a new visa integrity fee of at least $250, added to existing visa application costs, according to a provision in the Trump administration recently enacted domestic policy bill. The fee will apply to all visitors who are required to obtain non-immigrant visas to enter the United States. That could be a tourist. Again, this is a non-immigrant visa. This includes many leisure and business travelers, international students, and other temporary visitors. In fiscal year 2024, the U.S. issued nearly 11 million non-immigrant visas, according to State Department figures. Now, this is not really going to hurt the Western world countries, because a lot of them we have partnership with, we don't have any visa fees. This is going to affect a lot of countries that they need a visa, they need an extra security check and an extra additional amount to come to America. But this is more than what you guys are thinking. This is not a money grab for America. This is to ensure that the people who are coming to visit America has the money to be a tourist. Because a lot of people come over here on economic tourist visas. What I'm talking about, they come here as though they're tourists. So they come here legally. So they get a very cheap visa and then they stay over their visa requirement over the 90-day stint. I don't know the exact days that you can be on a visitor's visa. Because when I go to other countries, they say, are you here for business or pleasure? How long are you expected to be here? Right? Because some of these countries you can be here 30 days without getting a visa. You can be here 90 days without getting a visa or a temporary visa. That's as long as it lasts 9 months or so. 90 days or so. And you say, I'm only going to be here for 2 weeks. I come here to visit. I'm going to visit a couple of shopping malls, a couple of museums, etc. So I think this is a way that America, amongst the other things, again, this is still going to cost people a lot of money. $250 for a visa, that's expensive. Now, I could deal with 100, but 250 is ensuring that the people that come over here are financially stable. And a lot of you may be on board with that. I'm not against it, but I'm hesitant. It goes on to say that tourists and business travelers from countries that are a part of the visa waiver program, including Australia and many European countries, aren't required to obtain visas for stays of 90 days or less. Payment will be required at the time visas are issued, and there will be no fee waivers. Travelers who comply with their visa conditions can have their fees reimbursed after the trip is over, according to the revision. So again, as I stated, this is not a money grab. This to ensure that the people come over here are financially stable. It goes on to state that immigration attorney Stephen A. Brown, a partner at Houston-based Reddy Newman Brown PC, characterized the fee as a refundable security deposit in a recent post about the new policy. The mechanism for obtaining a refund is still unclear, Brown pointed out. In terms of the purpose of the fee, it's hard to say, Brown said in an email to CNN. Generally, immigration fees are to cover the expense of adjudication or issuance, but he noted that the reimbursement provision could mean refunding all the fees gained in a perfect world. There would be no overstays or visa violation. Let me tell you this, ladies and gentlemen, you may get majority of your money back. If you pay $250 on a non-immigrant visa, expect $200 back. They're going to come up with some sort of application fee and taxes and something. So $50 of your money won't be refundable. Just quote me on that. Remember this video and quote me on that, okay? But I definitely want to point that out. Now, Trump forever grudges ties Epstein files to Russia hoax. We're just going to read a little bit of this article because President Trump is redirecting his fury over the Jeffrey Epstein files into one of the MAGA's oldest obsession, pushing Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, and the officials involved in the 2016 Russia investigation. Okay. And what's behind all of this is the exploitation and the Epstein files of these hundreds of hours of videotapes of alleged encounters with Epstein and children and or child pornography, and the ties that Epstein have with President Donald Trump. So the question here, folks, is what are they trying to hide? As I told you guys before, if there's fire, there's smoke. And if there's smoke, there's fire or was fire. And I believe all of the above are true. Am I stating that I believe that President Trump is involved in some despicable things dealing with children? No, I'm not, because I don't know. But you know how you have that gut feeling? Women have women intuition, men have men intuition, or we have this gut feeling, or we have this sort of this, whatever it is, right? Some sort of energy, some omen, some aura that just tell you there's something else going on. What are they hiding? Why they're trying to restrict the release of the Epstein files? See, here's the thing. I think because of all the smoke and mirrors, the Ukraine-Russia conflict, the Hamas-Israel conflict, the Iran-Israel/America conflict, the Israel/Pakistani conflict, the refugees from Afghanistan coming over here to America, the refugees from South Africa, and the alleged genocide of Afrikaners, aka Boers, white farmers in South Africa, which we already denounced and debunked, which isn't true. But all of these smoke and mirrors going on, but it seems as though that the MAGA crowd is staying hard on these Epstein files. You know why? Because they're about families. They're about the American dream. And if somebody is touching or dealing with children in an inappropriate manner, they want to know, and so do I. See, the most egregious things that happen to children, more times than not, happen within the family. It's the aunt, it's the uncle, it's the mother, it's the father that are, in some regards, sexually abusing these children. But this, and I don't think one is worse than the other, because again, this is all dealing with children who are innocent, okay, who are impressionable. And so the most precious creatures on earth, because we were all children. Don't act as if that you just was born and you was an adult. You were a child as well. And some of you guys who've been through a certain couple of things have probably been affected by people who are close to you or close to your family. But these are children, supposedly, who have been paid and bought for. So child sex trafficking. Some of the parents knew about this, supposedly, and money exchanged hands for them to violate their children. There's information and evidence that's somewhere in these Epstein files and all these hundreds of hours of videos that the government is trying to hide from us. Now, I don't know who are in these files. Now, we can say that President Trump is a known associate of Jeffrey Epstein. So we all know that. We can all say that President Trump and P. Diddy were once friends or are known associates. Just look it up. Just look at P. Diddy, Donald Trump. You will see that President Trump has been to a couple of parties with P. Diddy. I'm not saying P. Diddy parties. I'm just saying parties with P. Diddy, as well as Jeffrey Epstein. Does that make the president guilty? No. That's why we need the files released. Because I think now granted, there's people on the left who believe that Donald Trump probably was in some situations that will probably end his presidency soon as the information is released. Then there's others that may be on the right. They just want the files released to see all these important people who've been part of this very demonic practice of harming children sexually. I just want the truth to be released because, again, this is one of the pillars that President Trump ran on, that he will release the Epstein files by the way of Pam Bondi. Now, Pam Bondi did a report stating that there's hundreds of hours of videotapes that the FBI is now going through, and that the tapes have Jeffrey Epstein with children inappropriately and or child pornography. Then we had Kash Patel to come out and state that, we went through these so-called files, but there's nothing that you want. There's nothing that. What do you mean there's nothing that we want? If there's nothing there, then release it. See, here's my thing. When he was on there talking with Joe Rogan, and Joe Rogan was really trying to drill down without offending him to kind of get the truth, so to speak. Kash Patel was being very descriptive, and I showed that video clip right here on Blacklogic. I don't want to revisit that because I don't think it's imperative. What's imperative is no matter what you have, release it. The hundreds of hours of video, release it. Files, release it. People who are associated with Epstein that are now claiming to be victims that are not victims, because that's another way they have scapegoated out of the associating with Epstein, is that one of the things that Kash Patel stated on the Joe Rogan show, he stated that we're not going to re-victimize the victims. And those victims could be women, those victims could be men, and those victims could be children. But most importantly, those victims could be the perpetrators that are stating that, my name is on a list because I went to the island, but I'm a victim because I just went there to party. I didn't see no children. I didn't involve myself in any children. I didn't go to the after party. That wasn't me. Okay, then again, once we start having names, dates, locations, that is how investigations work. You get a name. You found out where they were, at what time, on what day. How did they get there? Who did they go with? What did they wear? You keep finding out more and more information. And a lot of these people who are lawyers in politics, don't forget, a lot of politicians are lawyers. A lot of politicians are former judges and lawyers. They know the law. They just don't know politics. They know the law because they were lawyers. So they know how investigations are ran. They know how investigations are worked. Any significant amount of information on a person will lead you down a trail and you will eventually find out the truth. It's like a dog with a bone. If you get some really powerful investigators, just give them a name. And they will start to track down. They will call the FFA. Was he on that plane? Who was on the private jet? Was there a list? Where's the manifest? Who was part of the shipment? What products did they send? They will drill down so far, they will find out information. And this is why I believe that this information is not being released. Will the Epstein files ever be released? I just don't know. I just don't know if the Epstein files will ever be released. Because again, who is a part of these so-called alleged atrocities that was occurring with children? Hopefully, and I pray that this has not happened. But if it did, then those people should be definitely prosecuted to the full extent of the law. And I hope they never see daylight ever again in their lives.